The clock advanced mercilessly. The 24 hours burned like gunpowder. The sky over South City was stained rust red from pollution and the coming sunset. The old martial arts tournament stadium, once home to Earth's greatest fighters, was now just a bowl of rubble, broken stone, and shattered statues. At the exact center of the destroyed platform, sitting in a garden chair the androids had looted, was Bulma. Her hands and feet were tied with steel cables, beaten but chin held high. A few meters away, 17 played by tossing small energy pebbles against a ruined wall, while 18 looked at her reflection in a piece of broken glass. 5 minutes left. I told you they wouldn't come. They're rats. How disappointing. Guess I'll have to start ripping off limbs and send them a message. We'll start with the knees, old woman. Bulma closed her eyes, bracing for impact. But the shot never came. A sonic boom blew out of the android's eardrums. Crushing atmospheric pressure dropped onto the stadium, cracking the ground under them. From the top of the ruined stands, 3 figures emerged through the dust kicked up by the wind. Gohan stood in the center, his one arm clenched in a fist, his base aura calm but lethal. To his left, Trunks gripped his sword, eyes locked on his mother. To his right, Bardock stood with arms crossed, cracked armor, predator grin, ready for slaughter. Hey, scrap heap! You forgot to invite the full squad! 17 lowered his hand and the smile widened. Finally, I was getting bored. The 3 Saiyans jumped down into the arena. The extinction clock had hit 0. The tension in the air was so thick it felt like Trunks could slice it with the sword trembling in his hand. Well, I'll admit I'm surprised. I thought rats preferred to die hidden in the dark, not under the lights. You're late. We were about to start taking the human apart, piece by piece. Bardock stepped forward. Shut up, Tin Doll! If we were late, it's because we were deciding which one of us would use your remains as spare parts for our ship. Though looking at you, I doubt you're good for anything besides scrap. 18's smile vanished instantly, replaced by killing cold. Bardock's primitive insult hit its mark. 17 let out a dry laugh, enjoying his sister's irritation. You're a loud old man. I like it. It'll be fun ripping your tongue out. The plan stays. Bardock, don't die. Trunks, wait for my signal. Without warning, Bardock's key detonated. No build-up, no long scream, just a pillar of golden fire swallowing him whole. Come here, trash! Bardock vanished. The sonic blast shattered every remaining window within 5 kilometers. 17 barely got his hands out of his pockets when Bardock's fist, wrapped in concentrated golden ki, crashed like a meteor into his stomach. The impact was colossal. 17 was launched backward, breaking the sound barrier, smashing through the stadium wall, and disappearing into the adjacent city ruins in a cloud of dust and destruction. 17! That was the only mistake she made, getting distracted for a fraction of a second. Now, Trunks! Gohan didn't wait. His aura exploded, transforming into Super Saiyan instantly, and he shot toward 18 at overwhelming speed. 18 raised her arms to block Gohan's front kick, but the impact shoved her back several meters, boots digging into stone. Before 18 could counter, a second pillar of golden light blinded the stadium. Trunks, driven by the terror of losing his mother, unleashed the transformation he'd reached the night before. His lilac hair turned dazzling gold, and with a battle cry that tore his throat, he rushed 18 with his sword drawn. Another one? Damn it! Trunks slashed downward with all his fury. 18 barely avoided it, leaping back, but the sword's tip grazed her cheek. Gohan appeared behind her, firing a point-blank ki blast that smashed into her back and hurled her forward, straight towards Trunks' blade. The plan was working. Bardock's strategy had caught them off guard. Earth's untouchable gods were being forced back. 3 kilometers away, inside the heart of a smoking crater, 17 rose slowly. He wiped blood from his mouth and stared at the rainy sky. His clothes were torn, but his face showed no pain, only a psychotic fury he rarely allowed to surface. Floating ahead of him, amid smoke, was Bardock. The Saiyan breathed heavily. The transformation strain was already burning through his reserves at an alarming rate, but his stance was firm, defiant. Congratulations, old man. You've just earned my full attention. I was going to kill you fast, but now I'm going to make sure you scream until you can't speak. You talk too much. Even though Bardock knew 17 was infinitely stronger, he attacked anyway. What followed was unimaginable brutality. Bardock fought like a cornered animal, using every dirty trick he'd learned in 4 decades of galactic conquest. He threw sand into 17's eyes, used fake keybursts to hide his real position, and even spat his own blood like projectiles to blind the android's optical sensors. Their blows collided in the air, creating shockwaves that demolished surrounding buildings like card castles. Bardock managed to land a knee straight into 17's stomach, followed by an elbow to the back of the neck that slammed the android into cracked asphalt. But 17 didn't fall behind. Infinite energy meant every strike he threw carried 100% lethal force. 17 sprang up like a coil, ignoring damage, and drove a lightning-fast combo into Bardock's ribs. The sound of bones splintering rose above thunder. Bardock spat blood, his eyes flickering, focus slipping for a millisecond. That millisecond was fatal. 17 grabbed Bardock by his golden hair, yanked his head back, and fired a green energy sphere point blank into his stomach. The explosion was devastating. Bardock's armor shattered into scraps, fragments scattering through the air. The Saiyan was launched, bouncing across the ground like a rag doll, carving a trail of destruction and blood, until he crashed into the base of the stadium where Bulma was tied. In the stadium, it wasn't any better. The initial surprise was gone. 18, furious over the cut on her cheek, stopped playing. Trunks attacked ferociously, but his movements, driven by blind rage, were predictable. 18 dodged a horizontal slash and, with monstrous agility, stepped on the sword blade, pinning it to the ground. Before Trunks could let go, 18 delivered a spinning kick into his chest. A disgusting crunch sounded. Trunks' ribs collapsed under mechanical force. He spat too much blood, his eyes rolled back, and his golden aura shut off instantly. Trunks dropped, unconscious, critically injured but still breathing. "Trunks, no!" "You damn..." Gohan poured every bit of frustration and desperation into his one arm. He pushed his ki to the absolute limit, his golden aura turning violent. He charged 18, trading blows at dizzying speed. The sky flashed with the light of their collisions. Gohan blocked, dodged, countered, years of surviving hell in every movement. But he lacked an arm. His balance was always compromised against a perfect machine. 18 found the opening. She blocked Gohan's punch, grabbed his only arm, and with a brutal lever motion, dislocated it from the shoulder with a dull crack. Gohan choked out a scream, dropping to his knees, clutching the useless shoulder. His aura flickered, on the edge of collapse. That's when Bardock's ruined body fell from the sky, slamming into the ground a few meters from Gohan, kicking up dust and crushed stone. 17 descended calmly from the clouds, landing beside his sister, not even winded, brushing dust from his shoulders. Well, that was a nice warm-up, but I'm bored now. The smoke haze cleared. Gohan, breathing raggedly, could barely stand on his knees. To his left, Trunks lay unconscious and bleeding. In front, Bulma sobbed in helplessness. And then, on his right, Bardock lay on his back in a pool of his own blood. His Super Saiyan aura was completely gone. His hair had turned black again and hung lifeless over his battered face. Severe burns covered his torso, and he could barely open his eyes. Acid rain washed over his wounds, but he had no strength to rise. The physical pain was absolute. But what froze Bardock's soul wasn't pain, it was the position he was in. The leaden sky above him, the rain, the angle of the rubble, everything matched. 18 walked slowly toward Bardock with a sadistic smile and planted her heavy boot on his right arm, pinning him to the stone floor and crushing down. Bardock clenched his teeth to avoid screaming. 17 stood at Bardock's feet, looking down with cold indifference. He extended his right hand, palm open, aiming directly at Bardock's chest. A yellow, lethal energy sphere began to glow intensely in his hand, lighting Bardock's ruined face. Time stopped. The Kanasan curse, the premonition that haunted him in dreams, that made him hesitate days ago, was manifesting second by second, millimeter by millimeter, right in front of his eyes. No escape. Destiny had closed its fist around him. Bardock felt the searing heat building inches from his heart. He let out a trembling exhale. His breathing steadied. Fear evaporated, replaced by the cold, bitter acceptance of a soldier who knows his war is over. Gohan, crawling through mud, tried to reach him with his useless arm. "No! Grandpa! Get up, please!" Bardock turned his head slowly toward Gohan. His black eyes, hard, worn by 1,000 battles, softened for the first and last time. He didn't see a coward, he didn't see a cripple, he saw the same unbreakable spirit his son Kakarot had. He saw a future worth dying for. Gine, Kakarot, Raditz, I'm sorry, Bardock thought as a melancholic, almost invisible smile curved his bloody lips. I did what I could. I survived death itself to get here, to give you a chance. This isn't my world. This isn't my fight anymore. You're the last of our blood. Gohan. Kill them. Kill them all. Bardock looked 17 dead in the eyes, defiant to the end. No begging, no tears. The future doesn't belong to you, trash. 17 frowned, irritated by the old man's smile. Die, scum. A yellow bolt sliced through the stadium's darkness. The beam of pure energy fired from 17's hand and pierced Bardock's chest, punching through his heart and blasting the ground beneath him with a dull explosion. Bardock's body tensed for a second. His eyes widened toward the empty sky. Then slowly, life drained out of them. His head fell to the side. The lone warrior, the ghost of the past who traveled through time and hell to fight one last time, exhaled his final breath. Bardock was dead. The silence after the explosion was the most absolute and terrifying silence Earth had ever known. 17 lowered his hand, blowing smoke off his fingertips. 18 lifted her foot from the corpse, already bored. He was tough, but in the end he broke like everyone else. Yeah, how boring. Anyway, let's finish the ones left. But the silence broke. Not with a scream, not with an explosion. It broke with a sound that chilled even artificial blood. A low sound, like tectonic plates grinding before a massive quake, like the growl of a wounded beast that just lost the last piece of sanity it had left. Gohan knelt in front of his grandfather's corpse. His head hung, face hidden by rain-soaked hair. His tears, acidic and burning, fell onto the rubble, mixing with Bardock's blood. Gohan's mind fractured, shattered into a million razor-sharp pieces. He saw Piccolo sacrificing himself on the rocky plains. He saw Krillin pierced by an energy beam. He saw Vegeta falling from the sky, pride broken. He saw his father Goku dying in bed, pale, sweating, killed by an invisible enemy no amount of power could defeat. And now, in front of him, the smoking body of the man who shared his father's face. The man who reminded him what Saiyan pride meant. The man who sacrificed himself, knowing he would die, just to buy them one chance. It's my fault, Gohan thought. It's my fault for being weak. I'm always the one who survives. I'm always the one who cries. I'm always not strong enough. A spark of pure, irrational, burning rage ignited in the darkness of his shattered mind. That rage wasn't only aimed at the androids, it was aimed at his own weakness, at cruel destiny, at the gods who abandoned this world. The air in the stadium stopped moving. The acid rain froze midair, suspended by abnormal gravity. Rocks and concrete debris began to float, ripped from the ground by atmospheric pressure alone. What? What is this? The air pressure. His energy. It's rising. It's rising too fast. The readings don't make sense. Gohan raised his head. His tears evaporated before touching the ground, vaporized by the immense heat pouring off his body. His eyes were no longer those of a tragic hero. His pupils vanished, leaving only a pair of cold emeralds, sharp, empty, devoid of pity, mercy, or humanity. A scream, neither human nor animal, like the voice of 1,000 vengeful souls, tore out of Gohan's throat. Ah! The world exploded in light, a golden ki eruption, so dense and massive it darkened the dying sun, shot into the sky, piercing the black ash clouds, and revealing blue for the first time in 13 years. The transformation's force was so overwhelming that 17 and 18 were thrown back dozens of meters. Bulma, protected in the eye of the storm, stared wide-eyed, crying, feeling the immense heat. When the light finally faded, Gohan stood. He was no longer the mutilated, exhausted warrior. His aura wasn't a wavering flame, it was a solid wall of energy, bristling and violent. Blue lightning crackled and danced around his body with deafening snaps, cracking the ground with every step. His hair was fully spiked, sharper and more rigid than normal Super Saiyan. His dislocated shoulder had snapped back into place through sheer muscle force. His single arm hung at his side, relaxed, deadly. He had reached unexplored territory. Super Saiyan 2 had been born from his grandfather's blood and ashes.